Good evening. I do not think that we've got anyone in the chat. We're at a whooping 0 people, but either way, we'll go and introduce ourselves for the replay. I did a pretty poor job of promoting this earlier. I had some other stuff I was dealing with. But, Matt, we've got one.
Howdy.
The viewer.
Welcome.
Aloise is a backer.
Appropriate.
I recognize Aloise. Hello. So I am joined here today with my friend Matt Krotz of Kyrie, and this is my new segment called When in Rome with Michael and Matt. So I am obviously Michael Oden. Matt is Matt. So go on ahead and say hi, Matt.
Yeah. Hey, how you guys doing? We both make comics, and we're both into history, in particular Roman history. So,
Yes,
Michael's been finding some really interesting, Roman history commentator fodder that we can kind of engage with and critique, and hopefully make entertaining as we critique it. So,
absolutely, and the last time that we were on here, we were joined by YouTuber Pax Romana, which was a blast. I've sent him an invite link, so if he's able to hop on during the stream, awesome. If he's not, completely understand. People have lives. But the last time we had done this, we were getting together to talk about the whole millennial thing. She had released a video on King Arthur, and it was a blast. So figured we'd come back and, I think it was yesterday or the day before, a video came up in my YouTube feed. And it's actually not the video that I sent you, Matt. It was a YouTuber reacting to the video I sent you. And,
oh, nice. So it's making rounds.
So I got mad.
Yeah.
I got pretty angry, and namely, all right, Neff is in the chat. Okay, nerds, I have a ride. Hail, Neff.
Yeah.
Rome is one of my bread and butter things, and the Roman Republic in particular is a period that I have. We've got Freak Girl in the chat, and Neff is confirming that I did get very angry. He had to endure me going off on a tangent. Goodness. On him,
So just to be clear, so you weren't angry at the reaction video. You were angry at the source content that we're going to be.
Yes, because the source. So yeah. We're not going to be playing the full video on here. I have a specific clip that we'll focus on today, and we're going to actually, when we do more of these shows, it's going to be a whole thing where we focus on small little bits and talk about what's wrong with them. But the video in question was a video called Ancient Rome in 20 Minutes. Now, as a preface, I understand, I'm sure Matt does as well. We understand this is a very big task. And frankly, 20 minutes is not enough time to adequately summarize the history of Rome in a way that truly captures what you need to. You could probably break down each segment of Roman history into 20-minute lectures, and it would be better. Crazy Matt
Yeah, it's just I know.
I've had this
I feel
4 weeks. I have seen a doctor.
He sounded better before we went live, and he's already caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, they're trying to, they're playing the algorithm. They're like maximum 20 minutes. It's probably over what the algorithm wants. And
Yeah,
then the medium is the message, right? So they're like, well, how do we say what we want to say about Rome in a way that's gonna, that's packaged in a way for YouTube to like us, but it's not. Yeah. So we were talking in the green room a little bit, like obviously because it's such a big topic, you have to cut a lot out. So it and the video knows, like, it's clear that the writers know enough about Rome. It's more than just the Wikipedia page. So they know enough history. When they leave something out, they've made a decision to leave it out the way
correct.
that they've looked at it. It wouldn't be ignorance. So it's kind of interesting. There's more here where you can actually kind of engage with what's there and what isn't, and why they leave in what they leave in. Because
Correct.
it is kind of yeah.
And and to that point, it is a very interesting thing, and that's why I actually, and I got to give credit where credit's due. It was Neff's idea, where we don't go and attack the entire video. We kind of split it up.
Nice.
I apologize. I thought I was.
I can take you. Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. Like, so I just watched it like an hour ago, and I found, just anecdotally, I thought it was interesting. They leaned a lot on the proletariat, the Latin word, right, guys? And I'd forgotten. I did. This is how dumb I was. I had to look it up and make sure. I'm like, okay, I know it's Latin, proletary, but I had to look it up and make sure it had a authentic Roman context, and it does.
It does, but
But
they definitely chose that word because
yeah,
they go in and they talk about what we're going to be talking about tonight, which
I figured you'd like, that was my entryway right there. Yep.
is we're going to be talking about the Gracchi brothers.
Mm-hmm.
If the cough ends, you cannot take over writing the embrace. We can discuss it. I mean, he is the super fan. I feel like he should probably at least be somewhat involved.
It's on the table.
But so what it comes down to with the you know what we'll do is, to give people a break from my coughing. Yeah.
Oh man,
Neff
chest
is,
X-ray and everything.
yeah, I've taken medication, had a chest X-ray, and he's still not getting better. I can send him soup. Yeah, no, it's fun.
You have a
It's
caring
been
chat.
lovely. I literally had this cough since before the new year. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play. I clipped out this small section from it. I think it's 30 seconds long. I mean, with our whooping 4 viewers, I'm not really worried about getting copyright struck. If we do, whatever. But I doubt it. Like the whole point for it is actively the objective of this video to be reacted to by, like, it knows what it's doing. It's there to be, reacted by and seen and reposted and everything. So I doubt that we'll get in any shenanigans. We got Creators Outlet has joined us. Hail. Good, welcome to the chat. I don't think I've seen you in a chat of mine in a hot minute, man. I hope you're doing well. But anyways, let's present, as it's now called, this, and we're gonna make it nice and big. All right.
Rich grew 100 times richer, having bought land from the ruined peasants for a song. Previously united, the Senate and the Roman people split into 2 hostile camps. The tribunes of the people, the Gracchi brothers, would try to reconcile them. They proposed granting excess public lands to the impoverished peasants and suggested free distributions of bread to the poor. The disgruntled senators decided to suppress the Gracchi movement by force, killing the brothers and several thousand of their allies. Rich grew 100 times richer.
All right.
Bought land from
So,
That's a good one.
Brackeye brothers. The video makes the Brackeye out to be these martyrs of social reform. And it's really funny because the Brackeye are a part of the Populares party, which is the party of Gaius Julius Caesar. And when it gets time to talk about Caesar in that video, they literally treat him like a one-note supervillain. But we'll get to that in another video. The Brackeye are, as they said, they were two brothers that each of them had at a point in time held the post of People's Tribune. And the whole idea was, like, their whole thing was the Roman Senate had started to expand its power and wealth after the Punic Wars. Once Rome came out as the dominant power after the Punic Wars, they started to expand into new territories, and this left a lot of income coming into mainland Italy in the form of slaves. And so slaves are taking up all of the labor, as the video says, and this forced the farmers in the Italian rural areas to go into the cities and be completely desperate of work, which is what Matt was talking about with the video labels them as proles, as proletariats, which was an actual.
And one interesting thing, just immediately before that clip, they do mention they say that Rome was a victim of globalization, and they said it was cheap grain coming in, which was interesting. But yeah, you're contending it's cheap slaves that were, so it's like a whole different. It's a switch over to a different.
It's
type
both.
Yeah,
it's frankly both. Like the whole point is that the slaves were coming in and were taking up and were being free labor, and so it was cheaper to use slaves in these rural areas, and so the farmers sold off their land. And it wasn't really that they had sold off their land. It was more complicated than that, because a lot of the land that they were using was land that was annexed through the Punic Wars and everything, and it was land held by the state that people were allowed to go use. And this goes into what the Gracchi were trying to do. So they were trying to get this state-held farmland and distribute the wealth to these poor farmers and veterans of previous campaigns. And so at face value, Gracchi seem like real nice guys, right? Like they're trying to help and push for economic reform during this very trying time. They're facing a lot of opposition in the Senate from the wealthy elite class, the optimes, who want to keep running the Senate the way that it's been running and everything like that. However, what the video fails to mention is the violence that the video puts on the rest of the Senate, that says, like, oh, well, they killed the Gracchi using these violent political plays, were actually introduced by the frickin' Gracchi. When the oldest of the Gracchi, Tiberius, was People's Tribune, the Optimes had put up another tribune named Octavius, not the one that became emperor. This is before that. But they put this guy up to effectively veto all of Tiberius's motions as a counterbalance. And effectively, it got to a point where Tiberius was like, okay, fine, keep videoing my stuff. See what happens to you when the people find out, and effectively starts letting the Roman people know about this and incites them to use violence to remove Octavius from his post. And to pull this out, this is actually from Plutarch's Life of Tiberius Gracchus, from his parallel lives. With this understanding, he dissolved. Hold on, actually, here we go. But the Senate in its session accomplished nothing, owing to the prevailing influence of the wealthy class in it, and therefore Tiberius resorted to a measure which was illegal and unseemly, the ejection of Octavius from his office. But he was unable in any other way to bring his law to the vote. In the first place, however, he begged Octavius in public, addressing him with kindly words and clasping his hands, to give in and gratify the people, who demanded only their just rights, and who receive only a trifling return for great toils and perils. But Octavius rejected the petition, and therefore Tiberius, after premising that since they were colleagues in office with equal powers and differed on weighty measures, it was impossible for them to complete their term of office without open war. He said he saw only one remedy for this, and that was for the other of them to give up his office. So Tiberius Gracchus threatens in public assembly in the Senate House civil war if Octavius does not remove himself from his position and stop being a thorn in Tiberius' side.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to go, like, don't get me wrong. What the Gracchi tried to accomplish was good, but they used mob tactics, and they're goodness, and they are constantly doing this kind of stuff, and it ends up biting them in the ass. Tiberius ends up getting killed in a mob that he caused. Like, the second Gracchus of the Gracchus brothers, Gaius, doesn't fare much better because he starts putting in policies that become unpopular, and so he ends up having to flee and commit suicide. Crazy Mad in the chat. I'm discussing the Embrace 3 with Dean tomorrow. Yeah, might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, so that would be two things. Again, it's hard to fit this into 20 minutes, but they could have reframed that with as many words and as much time in a way that's a little more fair to the history.
And to that point, I was talking about Gaius Gracchus. Gaius corrupted the Senate to the point where he inverted the power dynamics to where military officers had all this power. And so this is from Appian, the Civil Wars, Book 1. Thus Gaius Gracchus was tribune a second time, having bought the plebeians, as it were. He began by another like political maneuver to court the equestrian order, who hold the middle place between the Senate and the plebeians. He transferred the courts of justice, which had become discredited by reason of bribery, from the senators to the knights, reproaching the former especially with the recent examples of Aurelius Cotta, Salinator, and third on the list, Manius Aquilius, the subduer of Asia, all notorious bribe takers who had been acquitted by judges, although ambassadors sent to complain of their conduct were still present, going around uttering bitter accusations against them. The Senate was extremely ashamed of these things and yielded to the law, and the people ratified it. In this way, the courts of justice transferred from the Senate to the knights. It is said that soon after the passage of this law, Gracchus remarked that he had broken the power of the Senate once and for all, and the saying of Gracchus received a deeper and deeper significance by the course of events. For this power of sitting in judgment on all Romans and Italians, including the senators themselves, in all matters as to property, civil rights, and banishment, exalted the knights to be rulers over them, and put the senators on the level of subjects. Moreover, as the knights voted in the election to sustain the power of the tribunes and obtain from them whatever they wanted in return, they became more and more formidable than the senator. So it shortly came about that the political mastery was turned upside down, the power being in the hands of the knights, and that honor only remaining with the Senate. The knights indeed went so far that they not only held power over the senators, but they openly flouted them beyond their right. They also became addicted to bribe taking, and when they had tasted these enormous gains, they indulged in them even more basely and immoderately than the senators had done.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you can. So you have to read that, and then you have to say, I either don't agree with that, or I just don't want to frame it the same way as as the Romans did.
It's crazy.
And I want to make a point that is, I want to impress a point from my perspective into the past for my video.
The crazy thing is that if you look up the Gracchi brothers in a Google search engine, everyone talks about them, their heroes. And it's funny because, like, you will have people defending them. The Romans considered the Gracchi to be the first tyrants of Rome.
Yeah.
Like the first people that abused the Senate. What the Gracchi did was a perversion of the Republic. Yeah, the reforms they were trying to make were for the benefit of the state, but all they did was stoke political rivalry and created a normalcy of violence in politics.
Run by a non-elected elite class, right? The equestrian knights. Kind of like a deep state situation where these unelected officials get to govern policy.
What ends up
turning the citizens into subjects.
What ends up happening is that you have the rise of figures like Marius and Sulla, Pompey and Caesar, and Crassus. So, like, these people are the reason for the fall of the Republic. Like, the Romans are very clear. It's like, what the Gracchi did caused the fall of the Republic. But the modern history narrative is, but they were trying to do the right thing. Were they? I mean, yes, they were technically using these policies to create reform that was much needed in Rome. However, one could easily argue that these guys saw an opportunity to take power from a chaotic situation. You know, these guys were not dumb.
Through a lot of, often through direct action, right? Through mob violence.
Well,
I don't see how that's
they
anti-Republican values, I guess.
Well, and it's not like these guys were men of the people either. Like, Tiberius Gracchus is the grandson of Scipio Africanus. His mother,
legend,
Cornelia, is the daughter of Scipio, the man who defeated Hannibal Barca and destroyed Carthage. This is no guy raising himself from the planks, the plebs. This man has been a patrician his entire life, and even fought in the Third Punic War.
Which makes it kind of hard to denounce him, I would think, right? At least initially, because you're thinking he's coming from a heritage class that
they had a lot of initial successes with their reforms and gained a lot of initial popularity because he was saying everything that everyone wanted to hear, and he's the grandson of Scipio Africanus.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah,
like that is massive. So it's literally like, when I saw this, and they're talking about the Gracchi, and they put the Gracchi up as these martyrs of social reform. I went, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And like it's funny, like I don't like, it's not on the actual the video, but since I had watched this initially by proxy of a reaction video, I commented in that, and I gave like a 3-paragraph long thing, and I was just like, I understand that breaking down the history of Rome in a 20 minutes is a fucking impossible task. Like each era you could probably talk about for 20 minutes. But there are some clear biases here. And like the first point that I talked about was the Gracchi. Because it's egregious. Like literally the Gracchi were the mob. They created a mafia state. Oh, you're not going to go along with me? Okay, let's see how the people feel about that.
Yeah. And it's not even just it's not just a populist movement, because he's also saying they're both saying like when it's advantageous, like let's use the equestrian, like let's use the
that was what his
nobility, lesser nobility. Yeah.
That was what Gaius did when he became tribune. And Gaius was even worse than Tiberius was. Like Tiberius realized that he screwed up. Like when he pulled that stuff with Octavius, it said that he saw like augurs that showcased that like things were wrong, and he immediately regretted it. Gaius had none of those qualms, and he was eventually run out of the city because of it. The Gracchi were not heroes. The Gracchi were people that were taking advantage of a desperate time to attack their political rivals and come out on top, and it bit them in the ass.
And so it's not as simple as the people versus the politicians, I guess.
Well, like that's the whole thing, is that the Gracchi were the first incidents of Roman politicians using the Roman people like a sword against their rivals. Or I guess it's more adequate to call it using them like a dagger. Because Tiberius is threatening his political rivals with social instability and unrest in the city, threatening civil war. But he's not challenging them openly. This is we're in the Senate. If you don't do what I want you to, I will use the people against you. It's a dagger in the back. Dean's in the chat. What's all to say here about having a new co-creator and writer on the it's called
dying. Crazy Mag.
And what I do want to say is we do have some other people that joined in. We have Michael Byers has joined. Thanks for showing up, Michael. Dreaded Dinosaur, Eric Hodson has joined the chat. Really cool announcement. Eric just finished his line work on the last page of American Bliss today. Congratulations, buddy. We'll link up tomorrow and talk a bit about that offline and talk about where issue 2 is headed. Great work. I've seen everything that he's done so far. He's got some phenomenal stuff. You guys are not ready.
Awesome.
Crazy Mad. Isn't he the only man to defeat Hannibal? That's correct, because he destroyed Carthage. Like, he beat Hannibal like 3 times. He beat him to end the Second Punic War, and then he beat him again at the beginning of the Third. We got B Rose has entered the chat. Oi, oi. Oh, hello, B Rose. But yeah, so that pretty much covers the the Gracchi, like I could go on and I could talk about some more of this stuff, but I do actually want to you know what, we can talk a little bit about Scylla, because so in the video, when they finish talking about the Gracchi, they go into Marius, who is probably one of the most prominent statesmen of the Republic, and is most known for his reforms to the Roman legion that turned the Roman legion into the war machine that drove the empire, the Marian reforms. The first real civil war is between Marius and one of his chief protege officers, Cornelius Sulla. And Sulla is Rome's first dictator. Like, in the way that we think of a dictator, he is Rome's first dictator. And he is a sociopathic son of a bitch. When he comes out on top of the Marian Sulla civil wars, because they fight like multiple times, he puts out prescription lists of all of his political enemies, and people are just you've got people running through the streets trying to kill anyone on this list, do them harm. Because the prescription lists where these people, by the authority, effectively stating that by Sulla's authority as dictator of Rome, he urged the citizens of Rome to treat these individuals as enemies and do everything in their power to do them harm. And thousands of people a day. Like,
can we have we laid the ground? Like, could you explain how do we get to that civil war? Like, I'm also giving you some breathing room. But yes. Like, my understanding is that it's that instability, the delegitimacy of the Senate from the Gracchis kind of showed the powerful a route towards using, the military, or like the equestrian class, like using some kind of elite kind of power group over against the Senate, or using the populace, like that becomes a blueprint, or at least a template that very quickly future generations are going to take advantage of. Does that sound like a fair assessment?
Yeah, and then in fact that's what Marius does. Is he kind of twists it. He takes Marius' big things is he makes the reforms to the legion, which kind of privatizes the army. Because up until that time, the Roman military was run very similarly from a recruitment standpoint to the Greek. It was a call to arms, right? It wasn't
just a general, like a citizen army.
It wasn't a standing army. It was when Rome needed you, you answered the call.
Yeah.
But Marius creates standing armies, provides their equipment, everything. Like, everybody's getting the same stuff, does all of that. And then on top of that, the general, as a general, he rewards his legionnaires with land after good service on campaign. Now, all of a sudden, loyalty is no longer to the Senate. Loyalty is to your general. And this creates the dynamic that will drive the Republic into the grave and begin and begin the empire. Because at that point, after that, SPQR meant shit. It was just completely ornamental. It was whoever had control of the armies and had the best armies controlled the city. And this would eventually set up things like the triumvirate, which we'll go into in another video. Give me 5 seconds. I need to go and get some of this crud out. You guys do not need to see or hear that. So, Matt, I will let you entertain them.
I'll handle the chat. We're trying to keep Mike alive here. Maybe the Embrace 4, but we're gonna keep them alive for the Embrace 3. We want to get that out, don't you think, guys? Yeah, like I just think it's fascinating, because the military, even at this point, even at this early stage, this Republican stage, it becomes almost like a different uh, wing of the. Uh, I guess you wouldn't say the government, but it's a different. It's just as powerful as the Senate, if not often more so, right? So it's not just that the soldiers' loyalty is to the general ultimately, but oftentimes you see the general's loyalty is primarily to his legions. Sometimes loyalty is going to be showed to the legions over against the Senate, which gets Rome into some hairy situations for a few centuries leading up. Yeah, Black Rose Comics says Jesus is Odin plastered already. I don't think so. I think he's got. I think he told us it's not the coof, but he's got a chest cold that's been going. So Michael Byers says you never did call me back. I'll have to bother him about that.
All right.
I'll be back.
I'm alive.
Oh, he's back.
I have pneumonia, so that's.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Odin is not plastered. Odin is just dying. Oh,
I kept them entertained relatively.
I heard. I appreciate it.
Yep.
And I forgot my water. I'll be right back again.
Yep. Yeah, so you can already see that's what's so interesting about Roman history, right, guys? Is that and the Romans themselves knew this. If you studied these early days, these late Republic days, it really becomes like a way of understanding the unfolding centuries by extension. It's not simplistic to say that. I don't think. Even this video, as weird as it is and as selective as it is, it does spend a lot of time in this period, probably because it's trying to.
Well,
it's still following that model, right? Of saying, yeah. There's this late Roman Empire stuff, but the really formative content is in this period. So even though they're selective, they spend more time there. So
the Republic is, without a doubt, and this is going to cause. I'm sure Pax Romana will get back to me and be like, "How dare you?" But it is true. the Republic is probably the most important era of Roman history. It it sets the foundation for everything that comes after, but B, it is so incredibly influential over Western culture and society. It is the most important part. It has the most important players of Roman history in it. So, and I know that Pax Romana is a huge fan of the late Roman Empire, and there's a lot of really cool stuff there. It's really interesting, but in order to understand Rome, really understand it, you need to understand the Republic and how it came to be and how it came wrong. I'm wearing an Aurelian shirt right now. It's all about the Empire.
What'd you think about that little? It had about 5 seconds. I thought it was kind of artfully done. It made me chuckle, but they had a moment where they were like, and then somewhere in the mid first century, there was a Judean who said he wasn't going to worship the emperor, and he got crucified. Moving on.
Yeah, there was that was definitely entertaining. I remember that. I liked how they, I literally just had an argument with a coworker about this with Septimus Severus, where he's like, Rome tried to hide the fact they had a black emperor. It's like, well, first of all, Septimus Severus was African, but he's from Phoenician descent, so he's like Arab, but he's not black. There's a difference there. And he just threw a fucking fit. But
That's always a fun conversation.
Well, it's
Yeah.
because that's what the media pushes. And you know what's the most frustrating thing about this? You know who that video is narrated by?
Someone famous. I couldn't place it.
Brian Cox.
He's a famous actor, right?
Yeah, he played Agamemnon in Troy. He played
yeah.
And I love Brian Cox. I love Brian Cox.
Oh,
I'm pretty much
absolutely.
I've ever seen him in, and it made me so mad that they got Brian
Yeah.
Cox to narrate this really, in my opinion, shitty video.
Yeah. He's a great narrator. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I will say is that I was fine with the video until we got to the Republic, and it became very clear that when we were talking about the Republic, there was a clear bias for left-wing politics, and I'm a center of the road kind of guy, like I'm not that's flying one way or the other in a heavy extreme, but like it got really annoying because, as I said, you start off like they start talking about the period of civil wars, and they start it by talking about how great the Gracchi are, and they end it by vilifying Julius Caesar. People who were a part of the exact same political party were doing the exact same stuff.
Yep.
Caesar was just better at it.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to have a peculiar point you're trying to make, and you'd have to warp things pretty strangely to characterize Julius Caesar one way and the Gracchi in an opposite way.
They immediately start off with like, oh, he went and committed genocide in Gaul, and I went, oh boy, yeah. That's gonna be a whole video on its own. I could spend like an hour and a half talking about Caesar's Gallic campaign.
Yeah.
Just that, I mean, he wrote a book on it, so like there's a lot of material to go off of.
Yeah.
Which brings us, we're at 42 minutes. I know that Matt, you and I, I think that the sweet spot for these is about an hour, and so let's pull up.
Seems that way.
Let's pull up your campaign. So Kyrie Volume 3 on Indiegogo.
Oh, thanks. We just had some good sales today, so I'm close to 10K, which is exciting.
Dude, that's outstanding. Like, I literally gush about your book all the time. This is Kyrie Volume 3. In case you guys are worried, here's books 1 and 2 right here. Let me tell you, man, I forgot about this, but book 1 opens up with by far one of the most badass quotes from Alexander the Great ever.
Yeah, you like that, don't you?
Oh man, I like for those of you who are unaware, my senior thesis is on Alexander. So like, I'm a bit of a fan, but you open this book up and we get heaven will not brook 2 sons, nor earth 2 masters. Alexander the Great. Fucking goat. But these books are phenomenal. Matt is the artist and the writer on them. They are just absolutely beautiful. I'll show some art from the first book here real quick, and then I'll show what is still until book 3, because he's shown me a page from it, and it's going to be my new favorite thing from Kyrie.
Oh man, thanks.
You know exactly you know exactly what I'm talking about too.
Yeah,
but
thanks to Michael, he's been helping me over the years to we've been dialoguing about Alexander the Great, who is a play. He is a character in the story. He's thematically super important, and he plays an acting role too. And trying to figure out how to do that respectfully in a way that he's serving an ethical message in the story, but he's also I have to do that in a way that is authentic, I think, to how different people did discuss him. Some did discuss him as the the mad son of Philip, and others discussed him as, ancient sources debated him. So I'm just trying to like play against both types.
You know what we call those people, Matt? The ones that call him the mad son of Philip? We call them butthurt bitches. That's what we call them.
Yeah. I like them too, but
go cry some
fun to
tears in Boeotia.
Yeah.
Go cry some salty tears in Boeotia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So if you like Alexander the Great, there's I tell a fictional story about why he went to the Siwa Oasis in 323 BC.
It's so good. Oh man. And I love your art here. This is part of like there's this really cool sequence that he's shown me from the next book that is just it's so cool. And I
gotta put that on that campaign,
Don't put it on the campaign. That needs to be a surprise for people. Like, dude, the dialogue on that page is so good. Do not spoil that for people. Let them find out.
Good. You like that?
It was incredible. I love that page.
It.
Do not share that. Keep that in your back pocket. Let people experience that in print for the first time.
Can do.
So good. And with that being said, now that I've talked a bit about Kyrie, close that. I got in this past week. If you've been paying attention to my Twitter, I need to post up on the campaign for SPQR, but we got the proofs in for SPQR and Elysian Fields, and they came out great. Look at that. I'm going to put myself up big. Look at that.
SPQR Adventures finally printed. Look at that.
Let's show off this. Look at this gorgeousness.
Gosh. Just top level art. Handwriting, yeah.
And yes, that is a quadriga. So this is the main cover of the book. This is the special edition with the wraparound ink art Louis cover. Now, this one will be holofoil when you guys receive it. We got our Elysian Fields remaster in.
Yes.
Looks gorgeous. And
Recolor.
We got the Pyramid Gambit remaster with the recolor for the first time. And this looks beautiful. Look at that cover.
Oh, excellent. Gorgeous.
And then I'm just going to show off probably my favorite page here.
Oh, wow. Got Anubis soldiers. That's cool.
Yes. And then we only have a few of these that are going out to, I think we did a maximum of 10 for the backers, but this is the limited holofoil edition of Elysian Fields, issue 0.
Wow.
And
that's great. You're going to sell so much. Now that you're fulfilling, it's just going to be like a whole second campaign worth of sales, I'm sure.
Well, so like we closed that campaign, but what I'm actually going to be doing is once we fulfill SPQR and people start getting their books, I am going to be bringing SPQR's Bizarre Adventure to Webtoon. And
great idea.
We already have the second book. I already have the second book planned, and I'm about a quarter of the way through that script. And the second book is called Wet Dream, which I think I announced when we were on with Pax.
Uh-huh.
And the main character of that is Caligula, and his stand or his eidolon I should say, is Ex Aqua. And he has been given a mission by Alexander the Great to live up to his legacy. So it's pretty entertaining stuff. This is our main cover by Arclight Blue. And he even did, I might ask your help with this, Matt. He made this SPQR logo as an homage to the Golden Wind JoJo logo, because it's different than the normal one. And so I need somebody's help recreating that. Like he was like, yeah, I created that for you. I just don't have like I only drew it in the drawing. I'm like, I need that. That needs to be the logo for the book.
Oh, beautiful. So, yeah, I could totally do that. Wow. I love the coloring. Like it's got the marker, like the manga marker feel, even though it's digital, right? But it's
well,
exactly like it.
That's the thing that drew me to this guy, is that he did a JoJo version of Guts and the Berserk armor. And I was just like, that is awesome. It was so cool. But so I will be doing another SPQR's Bizarre Adventure. It will likely release on Webtoon first. We'll probably like my plan right now is that I'll pay for pages in increments, and we'll release them in like 2 to 3 page increments on Webtoon. And build an audience, and then we'll crowdfund it once it's all complete. And if it does well, if it builds a really good audience on Webtoon, then we'll probably do a third one, which I'll base off of Steel Ball Run, and the protagonist will be Aurelian.
That'll be great.
Yeah,
that's a smart. Is Webtoon the one that's Korean owned?
Yeah, I think so. It's
the one to go on.
It mainly caters to like a manga audience, and so I figured it was a good idea. And like Kari's art is next level. I love working with her. But before we go, we'll go and we'll check back in with the chat.
Yeah.
Dean makes a very important observation. The Empire will live on. It will. You're right, because it lives on in our hearts, guys. It lives on in our hearts.
It's the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
The real Roman Empire.
Of course. Crazy Mad says, when does Palpatine come into play? Not sure. I might have missed what that was in reference to. Someone clip that and edit out Brian. Okay.
I don't remember. I was trying to figure that out.
Crazy Mad saying he was in the Bourne movies. Okay. Ogden is such a dork. That is accurate. No Straight Man says gush. Well, I did, so eat that. Ogden is a dork, but a lovable dork. I appreciate it, Crazy Mad. You're good people. Michael Byers, you made it for like literally the last few minutes of the stream. In our hearts forever. That's right. Yep. You might have missed the last little bit here, but it's all good. So make sure that if you have not backed Matt's book Kyrie, you do so. I believe the link is in the description.
Yeah, thanks. 157 story pages, $20. So can't beat it.
It is so worth your time. And on top of that, this jackass made annotated editions of the first 2 books. So I ended up having to go buy those again, because I'll be damned if I don't have an annotated copy of Matt. Matt, I'm making a personal request. I know that you draw in the opening. So as a thank you, people pay for sketch cards. He draws a nice little sketch for each of his backers in their books.
Yep.
That's great of a guy.
Every book for the campaign. Yep.
Yeah,
It's my pleasure.
Matt, all of my books, I want Alexander. And you can
Absolutely. You got it.
I want Alexander.
8-point star and everything. Yep.
One of them needs to have his helmet.
Okay.
You need to
let's do it.
Okay.
That's tough. That's not easy to draw. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So and I will consider that my pride and joy. But anyways, no, you do not do this. This will get you a swift reprisal from me. Do not draw Mark Ant.
In Egyptian garb.
I get it. Like I get a sketch card from Matt. It's like, here's Mark Antony.
No, I'm gonna have to do it. There'll just be a tip in that just has Mark Antony, so you can throw it out as soon as you get it.
I'll go and I'll get Matt to do a commission of Cleopatra doming Antony and send it to Mike Bryars. Women's Appreciation Day. Well, anyways, chat, thank you guys so much for coming out and hanging out with us. I know that
Thanks, guys.
This is not like this is kind of last minute, but I am going to be talking about Matt about doing these on a more regular basis, because there's a lot of ancient Roman history content out there, and there's a lot of cool things to discuss. And Matt and I get along well enough, and who knows, every now and again we might get Pax Romana crashing our stream as well. So
yeah, tune in for that.
I have a blast setting these up. It was really fun doing the research to get the stuff to put out there about the Gracchi. I hope you guys found it informative and fun. But if we do it on a regular basis, this segment is When in Rome with Michael and Matt. I'm Michael Oden from Nine Realms Publishing. Make sure you sign up for the Embrace 2. Links in the description. And Matt Krotz, you go on ahead and sign out.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on out.
Yeah, I'm Matt C on Twitter. You probably see me around doing annoying polls and arguing about crowdfunding. I do Kyrie, which you can order. Campaigns live for Kyrie 3. You can order all 3 books. That's 450 pages or so of content.
And the debate, Matt, is it Kyrie or Kyrie?
I heard yesterday a guy came on and said it was Kyrie, and I'm going with that tonight. I think that's like my favorite pronunciation. Kyrie.
Kyrie it is. The debate that we have now entered a third pronunciation of this name into the debate. So that's your next poll, Matt. I expect a tag. But you got chat. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming out and hanging out. And we will see you next time on When in Rome.
See you guys.